So you just watched episode 7 of Lovecraft Country and desperately need to talk about what the hell just happened in this episode, because this one is literally out there, like far out there. Well, don't worry, you are in the right place. Welcome to JBuck Studios, your home for reviews, reactions, and ridiculousness. And don't worry, we are talking about everything here in episode 7 of Lovecraft Country, from the spoiler-free thoughts initially kind of getting into this episode, but then we are jumping into the spoilers and trying to explain what the hell happened, literally what happened in this episode, and kind of where it leads in the future of what episodes 8, 9, and 10, and kind of where this series is going to lead us. But before we jump into that, let me know, or let us know, what you guys thought of this episode 7 down in the comments down below. What things really stood out to you? What kind of hidden Easter eggs did you see or find? And where do you think that this leads for the future episodes? Anyways, getting into the spoiler-free thoughts of this episode, this one was unique. This one almost felt like more kid-friendly, family-friendly, kind of almost like a pulpy comic book, 80s, like E.T., kind of that era of movies, but fun. It was an adventure, essentially, and it very much does jump into Hippolyta's character and, you know, empowerment, essentially. And I like that in this episode. It does give us a few threads of kind of the main through line and whatnot, but this is very much a contained episode, and it is very much Hippolyta's episode for sure. Sure, it gets out there and it's a little bit weird, and I'm not exactly sure how it's tying into a lot of things, but this is what we expect from this series now. An episode that is very much contained, almost a self-contained, like I said, almost episodic episode or series right now. That was unique, but also a very touching, almost character episode for sure. So yeah, this was a fine episode. Not exact, I think it's middle of the road for me right now. But now getting into the spoilers of this episode, this one called I Am is a unique one, like literally unique. Like from the very first opening 5 seconds of episode 1, that's what this whole episode felt like. There are sort of 3 different things going on, 2 smaller ones and 1 big one. So we'll get into the smaller ones. And Letty is dealing with Ruby, and you know, their relationship isn't really going well. You find out that Ruby has been hanging out with Christina, which we found out a couple episodes ago. Christina is William, and you find out that these 2 people that they're transforming into, essentially, she used their blood to make the potions to then be able to change. We kind of figured out that that is what was going on, but there's also kind of some dialogue between Ruby and Christina that hints at Lancaster sort of using this same technology, or using some sort of magic to transform or to do his dirty work, essentially. So we get that little bits and pieces right there. But Letty and Ruby talking to one another in the kitchen, you know, very much apologizing, you know, because Letty was kind of like her mother and whatnot. But you find out, and Ruby kind of jokes, but you find out that potentially Letty is pregnant with Atticus's son, daughter, something is going on there, because she's kind of sick and whatnot, and Ruby jokes about it. But there is that dream from earlier in the episode, that the same vision that Atticus saw when he was running out of the building or mansion in episode 2, Letty sees the exact same imagery, essentially, with her holding the book of names and whatnot, but then her stomach getting bigger, therefore, you know, thinking that she's pregnant, but then lighting on fire. So what exactly does that mean? The reason is she having the same dream is because she is pregnant from Atticus's son, daughter, whatnot, and therefore the same blood, lineage, and whatnot is inside of her, so therefore she kind of has maybe magic in some roundabout way. Who knows what's going on there, but more than likely, we are like 95% sure Letty is pregnant from Atticus in episode 3, I believe it is, when they hooked up in the bathroom. But Atticus and Letty, obviously, they're kind of hanging out and whatnot, looking for these missing pages, and they find out that his long-lost relative or whatever might have the full book, not just the pages, but the full book of the names and whatnot. So they kind of are doing some investigation and find out that Montrose and Sammy are very much a thing. So that is one kind of big reveal, because that happened in episode 5. Montrose and Sammy, they finally accepted their relationship, or Montrose did rather, and now Atticus knows. He finds out that his mother knew that his father was into Sammy and whatnot the whole time. So it kind of was this thing of like Atticus is finally realizing what exactly his life is throughout all of this time of him being lied to and whatnot. But then Atticus goes off to kind of another relative and is looking for the photo book, or at least that's what she calls it. Therefore, he's looking for the book of names that is hinted at being somewhere. Someone in his family, someone in his relative, lineage and whatnot has had this book at some point, but where is it? That's kind of the thing that we're finding out or figuring out here. And I think that he is getting closer and closer to finding it, which we'll talk about, or I'll talk about a theory of where I think that book of names is. But this is very much Hippolyta's episode. Obviously, it opens up with her tinkering with that outer space, or that astronomy solar system artifact. Essentially, she finds out that, spinning some things, doing all of this research, and then poof, the thing pops open, it lights up, and there's a key in there along with a phrase that says, "Every beginning is in time and every limit of extension in space." And then it also has longitude and latitude and whatnot that I guess leads her to Mayfield. She goes on a road trip in Woody, the station wagon and whatnot, to Mayfield, Kansas, which I guess is in the middle of nowhere. It shows up at like this telescope or astronomy site. Essentially, it's an abandoned kind of telescope seeing out to space. Goes in and finds this machine that very much looks like it's kind of like futuristic tech. There's definitely something going on with this for sure. So she uses the key, plugs it in, does a little computation, does some math in her mind, and essentially like a portal opens up. It is very bizarre for sure. But then right when the portal or this machine is working, two police officers show up kind of talking about Lancaster. And again, I'm assuming that Lancaster is hot on this trail, whatever the hell he is doing, but he knows about this site. He just doesn't know how the machine works and the key which Hippolyta brings to this site. But anyways, the machine essentially turns on, the police officers, and Atticus shows up. There's a big scuffle and whatnot, but then Hippolyta gets sucked into another dimension. And this is where this episode just gets bananas, off the rails and whatnot, because she is essentially captured by aliens from what it looks like almost these android type beings with a giant afro and whatnot, but she's not in harm's way and whatnot, and then kind of does this weird thing of like, oh, I'm so-and-so and I'm dancing with Jacqueline Baker over in Paris, and then gets transported there and is essentially this dancing woman through time. Like it's this weird thing where this machine is jumping into different dimensions, jumping into different worlds, parallel universes, or almost traveling in time. So the time element that we've been kind of talking about through all of these other episodes, where George is potentially going to come back into the fold, or the previous people from the Sons of Adam, that very much looks present, or they're in like these parallel universes that are going to come into the one that we are very much hanging out in, or very much this show is taking place in. But Hippolyta, you kind of find out that her story is sort of this empowerment. She's very much this belittled woman. Essentially racism, white people have put her into a box, and she no longer wants to do that. And this episode is about finding who she is, finding that empowerment, and also confronting George and whatnot in the end of this kind of episode. But you find out that the two of them come together, and essentially she goes off and lives the comic book that their daughter had written and drawn and whatnot. I believe it's the Interplanetary Adventures of Aretha Blue, the comic book that she had given to George in episode 1, I believe it is, but also it's shown at the very end of this episode. Hippolyta is like living that life out. She is living this comic. It is literally a real life comic book. So this episode is very almost kid friendly, family friendly, almost like I said, that pulpy science 80s feel and whatnot, which leads us into a whole new world. Apparently there's time travel, there's parallel universes, who knows what the hell is going on. But the very final shot of the episode, Hippolyta is in the universe, multiverse, who knows, she's going to end up in Avengers Endgame or something like that, and Atticus is there to kind of be like, I don't know what's going on, and gets out of there. My theory is, like, obviously, who knows what the hell this next couple episodes are going to be, but Lancaster knows about this machine and knows something else about what's going on. Atticus is looking for the Book of Names, and honestly, I think with the combination of Christina wanting to get into the house to get this solar system artifact, to get the key to open up multi-dimensions, I think the Book of Names is hidden in a multiverse, in a different dimension, almost in a different time, essentially. That is, I think, what's going to happen or play out in the next 3 episodes of finding these, not pages, but we're going to find the whole Book of Names, because it is no longer in this time. I'm pretty sure it's out in the space, different universe, different time. Someone somewhere has it, or it is hidden, because this episode very much points at there being much more out there, and there's some sort of magic or technology, a vice versa kind of mixture of the two, that can make all of that possible. Also, I think there's a lot more going on with Lancaster, very much thinking that he is using that potion or some sort of spell and magic as well to become someone else. So God knows where the hell this is going to go. This one opens up literally a whole new world, a whole new universe, essentially, for this. But what did you guys think of this episode? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Was there certain things that I missed? Was there little tiny Easter eggs that very much stood out to you? I want to know in the comments down below, because this one is a wild, expansive episode for sure. Anyways, though, as always, thank you so much for watching. Watch some more videos up there or right over there, brand new content every single week here on the JBuck Studios channel. I'm not entirely sure what's coming this next weekend. Actually, tomorrow, Monday, Possessor movie review. Stay tuned for that, because that one is a wild one. Follow all of my social media down there to stay up to date on everything on this channel. Like this video, subscribe to the JBuck Studios channel, and until next time, we'll see you later.